Good day to you. I'm Dr. Joey, and it's a beautiful day here on Pleasant Gap Farm. I got out and walked my 2 miles this morning, and the blueberries are starting to ripen. So I absolutely love that. The bluebirds were wakening me, and the sky was blue. So it was a blue day in a blue work positive kind of way here on Pleasant Gap Farm. So welcome to this Wednesday. Thank you so much. I so much enjoy the time, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this as a recording. Always enjoy being with you each month. The Work Positive community is a dynamic group of people who are sincerely committed to growing culture, growing people, and growing profits, and understand that all of those are interrelated. If this is your first time, I want to give you a great big welcome because I know what it's like to jump on a webinar for the first time. You are welcome here. Just come as you are, as yourself. And be sure to stay until the end when I've got a couple of free gifts for you. Also, you'll have a comments. You'll see the comments box over there on, depending on whether you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. Find the comments box wherever it's located, where you are. And we'll be interacting around that during today and just really seeking to get some responses from you about where you are in your own work positive culture journey. I don't know about you, but man, it's incredible to believe that the year is half over. 2026 is half over. In fact, today's a special day in my family. Our second granddaughter turns 11 months old today. Yay! So I'll make sure she gets some cookies or something today as she turns 11 months old. So today, a lot of people think of family as a team. And our family certainly works together as a team, and we're very, very excited to work with each other to help each other accomplish more than any one of us could do alone. And so today I want to talk about, as we're through this half of the year, we've got enough in our rearview mirror to look back on and enough through the windshield to look ahead of. We've got equal amounts. So let's examine what can only be called as a challenge for cultivating the team you dream about. Our resource today is my latest bestseller, Dream Teams at Work. Cultivate the work positive teams you dream about. And oh, by the way, thank you to everyone who is on our mailing list that responded to our free Kindle offer. As we're doing this live today, we're number one in 2 categories on Amazon. And we're actually number 3, at least just before I came on, an hour or so before I came on. We may be up to number 2 by now, in a third Amazon category that we've never been in before, and that's the business teams category. So thank you to everyone who's picking up their free Kindle copy. That may be one. $79 of those people. All right, I think we're back on. We had a little bit of a hitch in our giddy up there. I live on a horse farm, so I can talk about hitches in our giddy up, right? So 79%, nearly 4 out of 5 of the people on our team are disengaged. They're just checked out. Now you've heard that a lot, and maybe you think to yourself, hey, those are somebody else's people. These are our people. This is your people. These are my people. It's just kind of the way they are. It's the way things are going today. They fall into usually one or 2 camps. They're either just checked out altogether, or they are actively working against us. At least the ones who resist us and are actively working against us are engaged, right? The ones who are just apathetic aren't. Gallup discovered in a State of the Global Workplace report they released last year that you and I as people leaders, you and I as managers, account for 70% of the variance in our team's engagement. That's right. We're responsible for 70%. And because of this disengagement, $438 billion are lost. $438 billion lost in 1 year. I had the pleasure of interviewing Sean Limpsam, who's an executive coach. He also wrote a really cool book called One Drop of Poison. He's one of the 8 phenomenal culture leaders, by the way, that I interviewed on the Work Positive podcast that informed this work, Dream at Work. Sean frames the situation this way. He says that a single misaligned leader operating without any self-awareness at all can slowly poison a culture. The flip side of that is true also, lest you despair. One intentional leader can create a team that's so strong people line up to join it, and people stay on that team because that leader operates with clarity and care. And the team becomes so strong, people want to join it, they're asking to join it, they refuse to leave it, and they do their best work inside it. And one of the realities I like to consider every day is that if you're creating that kind of culture on a team, where people are going to be that fulfilled, find that much meaning, purpose, and satisfaction in their work, those folks are going to go home and they're going to be better spouses or partners. They're going to be better parents. If they have children, they're going to be better members of their HOA, their community, and really wherever they live. That's the multiplier effect that I absolutely love about Work Positive Dream Team. So the purpose of our spending time together today is for you and me to cultivate the Work Positive teams that we dream about, not the ones that we inherited necessarily, but the ones that we dreamed about. So we've been fed kind of a pack of lies through the years. We were told to believe for decades that team performance comes from having the right org chart. If you can just tweak it with some expert consultants' help, right? The right comp plan, or if you write up the right KPIs, the team takes care of itself, right? Isn't that what we've been told? So how's that working out for you? Not so hot. Well, here's what I've learned from 40 plus years of coaching executives, transforming cultures, most of them from negative or certainly underperforming to positive. And, when you grow people, you grow profits. Also interviewing hundreds of leaders on the Work Positive podcast. The organizations that grow people and profits today do so in that order. Grow the people, you grow the profits. They start with people and the profits pour in. Well, what we need is a framework to do that. I mean, we may intellectually assent to that, but what does that look like in everyday practice for you and for me? So what we need is a framework and the commitment to use it to lead your dream team at work. So I've been very, very excited to share with you some of the learnings that I discovered from the 8 phenomenal culture leaders that I had the pleasure of interviewing on the Work Positive podcast. They are Glenna Kromoff, Lisa Cummings, Sean Limpsam, whom I mentioned, Jennifer McClure, who is in her own right, just an amazing expert about culture. We're going to learn from her today. John McGavin, if you've been down to Orlando to do the Disney thing, you very well could have stayed in one of the properties that John is the area general manager for. Ashley Rudolph, who is absolutely amazing up in New York City. Jill Schulman, one of the bravest people I know, and then my good friend, Dr. Will Sparks, with whom I enjoyed doing life. So their research and their stories plus mine together are going to shape the backbone, have shaped the backbone of everything that you're going to discover today. DREAM, D-R-E-A-M, is the acronym for the framework that we're employing today. This is how you do it in real life. You create your dream team following this acronym. So here's the way you do it. First of all, the D is for define your culture on purpose. And we're going to talk more about each of these in this hour. R in dream is for right people, right seats. E for elevate courage. Courage is the most interesting thing. So I look forward to talking about that with you. A is for attend to each person. And you may get exhausted just thinking about that one, but I'm going to show you how to do it in ways that are very fulfilling for you, as well as the M, magnify their strengths. We've got some streamlined processes that you can put in place. So what do you say we talk about the first one? That is the D in dream is for define. Define your culture on purpose. Culture is what's happening right now on your team. So many of us think of culture as something that we, order from Amazon, buy it, install it, or we read HBR and they tell us, here's the article on do the culture. So we just purchase it, bolt it on to whatever it is that we're doing now. And we magically have culture. Not so much. Culture is what's happening on your team right now. It's how I like to call it how they roll. So whether you created it or not, it's there. Whether you're watching it or not, it's there. Whether you believe it matters or is important, is there. It's there. I can't believe you're on this webinar, this live experience, if you don't believe it matters. But anyway, some of you may be giving me the side eye right now. The question is never whether your team has a culture. The question is whether the culture you have is the one that you dream about, the one that you get excited about and come to work in the morning to see and watch it happen. My friend, Dr. Will Sparks, told me something really important on the Work Positive podcast that I want to share with you. So here's a clip of Dr. Sparks.
As I say in the book, that culture isn't just something that happens to you, you happen to it. And so I think that we tend to think of the organization as something that's out there or something that happens to me. And so I'm a big believer in the individual accountability and individual responsibility. What difference can I make in whatever sphere of influence I have? And you might be the CEO, you might be the CHRO, you may be an individual contributor or anything in between. And so it's realizing that all I can control is the way that I show up, the way that I respond or overreact.
Individual responsibility. So what does that mean for you? You as the people leader are more than a passive observer of your culture. Instead, you have an opportunity to architect it. Now, you do architect it, whether you realize it or not. But when you're architecting it, Will's research shows that you're architecting it on one of two levels. There's the formal visible level where tasks get assigned and deadlines get met. And then there's what he refers to, because he's a real specialist in Carl Jung's psychology, he refers to it as a shadow level. And that's where the real emotional dynamics play out on your team. So that shadow level oftentimes lacks definition in the way that you're architecting your culture. So Will has identified 3 different types of shadow level patterns. He refers to them as dependent, dramatic, and detached. And he has found in his research that traces back to the very same source, and that is the people leaders, you and me, our own unexamined, unintended habits and beliefs. Now, we'll go to his LinkedIn profile, connect with him. He's absolutely brilliant. And as you see there, highly personable. He is more than happy to resource you with all kinds of things to help you identify that shadow level. I don't have time to talk anymore about it today, but it's absolutely fascinating how those emotional dynamics play out in culture and are on that shadow level and really give definition to the kind of culture that you're creating, because you're defining your culture on purpose. John McGavin has done as good a job as anybody that I've ever met in playing to that shadow level and really architecting the emotional dynamics and the way they play out. John is the area GM for the Ritz-Carlton and the JW Marriott and some other properties at Grand Lakes, Orlando. He runs an operation with 49 departments. You with me? 49 departments, 275 managers, and nearly 1,700 associates. Before the pandemic, his team's turnover rate hovered around 9%. Do you know what the common industry standard is? Hospitality industry standard is 75% is common. So John had to be doing something right to retain people at that kind of rate. So let's discover part of how he did that. Here's what John told me the key to his success as a people leader and as a culture architect as area GM for the Ritz-Carlton and JW Marriott at Grand Lakes, Orlando. Let's listen to John. Right.
That those are expectations. People aren't going to be fully engaged or love where they work because you buy the equipment that they should have, quite frankly, anyway. It really revolves around processes or systems or how people are being treated or communication. People don't go to work to do a bad job, right? People don't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to go to work and do a really bad job. Usually we as leaders, we're the ones who get in your way. Either we do something to frustrate them or make them mad or discourage them, or we say something that they don't appreciate. So we have to sometimes look ourselves in the mirror and say, what did I do?
I love that, man. That's brutally honest, isn't it? We as people leaders get in their way. And so you heard his basic philosophy there is people don't get up and say, I'm going to go do a bad job today. We get in their way. What happens with us as people leaders is, and this is where we abdicate our responsibility to define the culture. We want to diagnose the culture challenge and put it on the people. Instead, ask yourself, what am I doing that makes this challenge worse? Or what am I not doing that makes it worse? John refers to it as a mirror moment. And that, my friend, is the most useful diagnostic tool available to any people leader at any level. Culture is so vibrant and it needs daily attention. It requires real conversations and the kind of honest feed forward that services only as people feel safe enough to give it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But let me give you a challenge. Each one of these, DREAM, as you know, if you read any of my books at all, I always come with a dot challenge. That's do one thing. So here's your define do one thing challenge today. And this is so simple and yet so important. I like simple and important, don't you? It's easy to do too. Pick out a team member, one team member, and go to that team member and just ask them, what's one thing I can improve in leading our team? Now, I know that takes vulnerability, authenticity. It's a risk, right? And so you may hear something that is a sore spot within here, and when they name it, and you may come to your own defense. Instead, actively listen, take notes. That is your first step towards defining your culture on purpose rather than letting the culture define itself with your hands off the wheel. So I promised you opportunities to comment. With each of these dot challenges, you're going to have an opportunity to comment. Go into the comments there, and on a scale of 1 to 10, rate, with 10 being the highest, rate how intentional you are about defining culture right now. Okay. I know I'm asking you to be vulnerable, but just from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, man, I got this. We're defining it every day. How intentional is the culture definition on your team right now? Okay. All right, so we're rating your culture 1 to 10 there, and it looks like, Annalise, are we all hooked up for comments here? Looks like we are. I don't know about the folks on LinkedIn. I can't see them right now, but on YouTube and Facebook, just drop it in those comments right there where you find it, okay? All right, so the D is for define culture on purpose. The R in dream, R in dream is for right people, right seats. I had the immense privilege of interviewing Ashley Rudolph, who's an absolutely brilliant young woman. She was helping a client fill a senior communications role. And the client started the search the way most of us people leaders do, just starts listing everything the new hire would need to do. And usually those lists look like they require 80 hours a week, right? So Ashley let him go on for a few minutes, just listing everything the new hire would need to do. And she stopped him with a question that she shared with me on the Work Positive podcast that just reframed everything. Why should the perfect candidate be excited about working here? Wow. You know, I live on a farm, so we have white-tailed deer everywhere. Our driveway is about a quarter of a mile long. Each evening after dark, my wife and I are very careful about driving up that driveway because a white-tailed deer is going to be standing around it, particularly when the acorns are falling on the driveway from the pin oak trees. Why are we so careful? Well, because our headlights they literally blind the deer, so the deer freeze and don't move. That's the kind of deer in the headlights look that guy, this people leader gave to Ashley Rudolph when she asked that question, why should the perfect candidate be excited about working here? Most of us as people leaders, I mean, is that a question we consider? We get so focused on what we need from our team members that we just forget to ask, hey, what am I offering them? Top talent now, the ones that you really want, they're the best evaluators in the room. So when you start listing everything you need and everything you want to the exclusion of why they should come to work for you and what you offer to them, well, that's why they choose to work for a different company than yours. And this is where my interview with Jennifer McClure was so insightful. Jennifer spent a couple of decades in executive search before she became a leadership advisor to people like the Department of Defense and other companies that are household names. She has anchored her career, I think, around the distinction between attraction and recruitment. And Jennifer's one of the best about talking about this. As she and I talked about it, recruitment oftentimes sounds like a sales process, and I refer to that as selling the sizzle. But attraction, on the other hand, is what I like to call plating the steak. It's what happens as your culture becomes so compelling that the best people want to work inside of it, and so they find you. Here's the way Jennifer described recruitment versus attraction and our need to be about attraction when we had our Work Positive podcast conversation. Let's listen to Jennifer now.
Place to work. Those are always going to be your best sources for getting people into your company or the people who actually work there. I think hiring great leaders to work in your organization certainly help to facilitate that, but people also want to work for great leaders. So once they hear, that someone is out there speaking on a topic, or they've written a book about a topic, or maybe they're just really involved in the community and known as a great mentor, if they know they work at your company, then I think they explore the potential to work for someone like that. So I think those are a couple of things that are mainstays in how you get people to come and work or be interested in working in your organization.
Wow, Jennifer put her finger on the pulse of something there. I mean, there are all kinds of great ways to attract top talent, but word of mouth is the oldest. It's the most powerful attraction strategy here on the planet. John McGavin, in fact, created his entire talent strategy around this reality at Grand Lakes. He told me on the Work Positive podcast, you have to work just as hard on the employee experience as you do on the guest experience. Of course, he's in the hospitality industry. Here's one of the things John does that you can adapt in your own way. He weaves ceremony into every layer of the Dream Team experience. His onboarding process includes what he calls a wall of applause. So he gets about 40 to 50 existing team members to stand in a hall and to applaud every new associate as they walk into orientation. So before the first training slide appears, the new associate is already learning, hey, I chose well. They got a great culture here. Glenn Kromoff has a similar type of philosophy around onboarding and this whole selection process, recruitment versus attraction. He frames the selection process, Glenn does, from the human center outward. Here's what he told me on the Work Positive podcast about how you do that.
I think that conversation is individual, right? Because the individuals are all different. So what you need to do, even in an interview, is what, like we're doing here, we listen and we respond. When you're in an interview and they ask certain questions, or you need to be able, as the hiring person right there, to be able to show, I listened to you and you're going to be valued here for who you are, not for what we want from you.
So very important. Glenn does a great job of working from the human center outward. Jill Schoenman was one of my guests on the Work Positive podcast. She's author of a great book. I can't say enough wonderful things about it. Get your copy on Amazon today. She is author of The Bravery Effect, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. She coaches her clients to communicate culture expectations directly during the selection process before an offer is ever extended. And so what does that sound like? Something like, in our organization, we're going to push and challenge you to reach new levels of impact because we are a feed-forward rich culture. That's the kind of transparency that attracts the right talent, causes everyone to self-select. So obviously you want some people saying no thank you that you interview. That's a healthy selection process. So right people in the right seat. Here's your right people do one thing challenge. Before you interview anyone else, before you go to make that next hire, write down 3 reasons why a perfect candidate would get excited about joining your team. Write down 3 reasons why that candidate would get excited about joining your team. Now go over to the comments section and just share one of those reasons. Okay. What's one reason somebody would be excited about working on your team? And let's learn from each other about that. Okay. All right, great. So D is for define the culture on purpose. R is right people, right seats. What is the E in our dream teams for? Elevate. And what are we elevating? We are elevating courage. Now, you talk about courageous. I promised you we'd talk a little bit more about Jill Schumann and the bravery effect. This lady showed up on the first day of Naval ROTC orientation in hot pink silk shorts with matching pumps. Have you ever in your life? Oh my goodness. Now, Jill says she had researched the dress code carefully and she understood that officers did not wear jeans. So she covered that. She missed a few other things though, right? So a senior Marine spotted her in the crowd, leaned over and told her she'd never make it. Not only did Jill make it, she became the commanding officer of a 200-person unit in 5 years as a combat engineer. I think she made it, right? She did learn her lesson about the shorts and the pumps, though. Then Jill went on to work in corporate America, and her own leadership development firm grew from that, centered on a single insight. And this is one that is so relevant to a dream team culture. Fear is the primary force that prevents your team from performing at their best. I know we oftentimes think it's because we didn't hire the right people or we don't have enough resources or our budget's not big enough. It's fear. That's the number one single factor. Now, the antidote to fear is courage. And we could spend the rest of this session on courage, and I wish Jill was here with me to do exactly that. But let me just give you the shorthand, what you need to know about fear and courage. So often we think psychologically people need to release all their fear. Don't be afraid. That's what we tell them before they'll act. Not exactly the case. Courage is the ability to act in the midst of fear. There's always going to be something, and we'll talk more about the neuroscience in a moment. There's always going to be something in your brain setting off alarms, telling you to be fearful. But courage is the ability to act in the midst of fear. Jill identified with us 3 arenas where fear most commonly paralyzes teams, and we're going to get the antidote from her in just a moment. Those 3 areas are, first of all, communication. What does that mean? It's what your people don't say. They are withholding ideas. They're withholding their concerns. They're holding back on honest feedback because they don't want to be rejected or humiliated, and that's what they fear. Second thing after communication is career progression. Talented people oftentimes wait for confidence or courage before raising their hand for the next level. They're waiting for you to take the first step with them, maybe for them. Communication, career progression. The third area is innovation. Companies just keep doing what they're doing, what they've always done, because the alternative requires tolerating uncertainty, and that pushes our fear buttons, and we just don't want to be courageous in that level of fear. So here's what Jill told me on her Work Positive podcast episode that is the antidote to communication, career progression, and innovation fear.
In the workplace and talk about like this concept or this construct of bravery sounds great, but what does it really mean? So the fears that I hear of all the time as I work with different organizations are sometimes the fear of speaking up, of sharing their ideas, or the fear of highlighting a concern. So a lot of it's around communication, and that is a huge, obviously, deterrent to achieving goals. So this relates to psychological safety. I just wrote an article in Forbes a couple days ago that talks about how important psychological safety is, but we need to not just create an environment where people feel safe speaking up. We've actually got to teach our employees how to find their voice, even when they're a little bit unsure. So there's 2 sides. If we teach people how to be brave and we create a psychologically safe environment, then communication, the real goal is candor, not comfort. It's candor.
Boy, I hope you caught that last statement. There's the antidote. Candor. candor. That is having the courage, or as Jill would say, being brave enough to step up and say what you may be afraid to say. And so psychological safety really feathers the nest, if you will, for your team members to be able to step up into that gap and say, and take a risk, right? Because here's what's going on from a neuroscience perspective. The brain fails to distinguish between perceived fear and actual fear. In fact, about the third trip around the brain, perceived fear and actual fear look the same. So humiliation becomes the same thing as a fall from a 30-story building, right? A team member is not necessarily being timid as they stay quiet in a meeting rather than raising a real concern. They're responding to this brain system that's evolved, that has kept us alive for all these generations. I call it the cave person in your brain, the cave man, cave woman in your brain. Our ancestors had to very quickly recognize the saber-toothed tiger. Remember, they'd heard a story about how a saber-toothed tiger ate a child one day, and then find cover for their family if they wanted to live another day. I really like the way Will Sparks describes candor from this perspective. It's that same dynamic, just a different angle. He told me that leaders often punish candor rather than reward compliance. Now, it sounds like the same thing, but not really. The team learns very quickly, bring wins, not challenges. Raise your numbers rather than your concerns. Here's the way Will described it on our Work Positive podcast episode.
So we found that when you've got a secondary culture of dependency, in my model, it's at a 40% or less, and then you have a dynamic scale that's above 75, that's the optimal range. But when you go beyond 40 with dependency or beyond 20 with detached, which is the fight, flight, and group level, the dramatic is 30 or below. If you get beyond 30, then you're probably playing nice with each other, but maybe some politeness is trumping some candor. And so there typically is a performance issue that needs to be discussed in a dramatic culture, and we're ignoring the problem. There's a white elephant, an obvious problem in the room, but we're choosing not to talk about it. And that's the trip to Abilene.
If you heard him say right there, that's the trip to Abilene. Prior to that, in the conversation, I had referred to the Abilene paradox. If you're unsure of what that is, just go to your favorite search engine and just put in Abilene paradox. It's an absolutely fascinating study in human behavior directly related to your team. That's Abilene, as in Abilene, Texas, paradox. So here's your elevate, right? Elevate courage, do one thing, challenge. In your next team meeting, I want you to share one thing you're uncertain about and ask for your team's thinking about it and help. Now, I know for some of us, that's a huge risk, right? Because we're being vulnerable, also being authentic. And some of us fashion ourselves as people leaders as needing to have all the answers. If you want to create the kind of environment where, candor is a part of it, and create this work positive culture with candor, share one thing. I'm just not sure about this. Can you guys help me out with it? Okay. Name it out loud. It's your invitation for candor. As you do that, excuse me, I want you to watch what it unlocks. Told you I walked this morning, right? Some pollen. That, excuse me, that one moment of your modeled bravery gives everyone in the room permission to do the same thing. If sharing uncertainty feels a little uncomfortable for you, that feeling is the point. That's the area you want to commit to today. So go over in the comments. Jill named 3 areas: communication, career progression, or innovation. Just in the comments, drop which of those 3 arenas needs the most courage on your team right now. Is it communication? Saying what we think and giving that kind of feed forward rich encouragement. Is it career progression? Is there someone who's knocking it out of the park day after day after day, but has yet to raise their hand and ask for more opportunity? Or is it innovation? We're just kind of vanilla. We're keeping things on the same level, doing things the way we've always done them. Okay. So D is for define your culture on purpose. The R is for right people in the right seats. That E is for elevating courage. Be sure to get you a copy of Jill's The Bravery Effect book. The A in DREAM is for attend, ATTEND, as you see here, attend to each person. And that's so very important. Now, when I talked to Jennifer McClure, she reminded me of what happened back in April of 2020. I know that's over 6 years ago. It was month one of the pandemic. Our first granddaughter was born right after the lockdown. She was born March 25th, and the lockdowns generally in this country were March 15th. So that time period is very real in my mind. The global economy was in free fall. Maybe you've been to therapy to get over this. Offices emptied out. What were we doing as people leaders? Man, we were just making it up as we went along. What were we doing though as we made it up? Interesting. Gallup released employee engagement data from that time period. Nobody predicted it because everything was upside down for us. Engagement actually went up. It did not go down. It went up, in fact, to a record high in the middle of what some people refer to as the worst global crisis in a generation. How in the world did that happen? Jennifer was following the data very closely, and here's what she told me on the Work Positive podcast about why engagement went up as the pandemic began.
We as leaders were in front of our people daily.
Yes.
We were having frequent communications, but we were also saying, we don't know what's going to happen. Here's what we're trying. This is what worked. So we did a lot of communication and bonding as a work community and as teams to say, we're in this together. Engagement dropped because we'd fallen back to our old patterns of you call me if you need me, or I don't know how to talk to you about this difficult, societal issue that's out there. I know that you're probably feeling something, but I don't really know if I'm supposed to talk to you about it. So I'm going to avoid it like the plague.
Yeah.
Engagement went up during the biggest global crisis to happen. I guess we could say that's what it was, because we were checking in and communicating as leaders more with our employees. It fell like a rock because we said, we don't need to do that anymore. And so I think that's a great example for us to kind of look back on and say, what did we learn during the pandemic? We learned that people want to hear from us. They want to see us. They want us to be visible, accessible, and communicative.
The lesson is simple, isn't it? Yeah. People leaders fail at consistent execution of attending to their teams. Boy, that's a brutal truth, isn't it? We as people leaders fail at consistent execution of attending to the people on our teams. Here's an example Glenn Kromoff gave me on his episode of the Work Positive podcast. He walked into a facility one day. He was an interim leader. A 40-year veteran walked in from that company, walked into his office on Glenn's first day and called everything Glenn had just said in the team meeting, which Glenn thought he had given a glorious speech. This 40-year veteran looked at him and called BS on him. The man said, I've seen too many management programs come and go. I'm just not going to trust this one either. So Glenn listened for about 10 minutes, and then he told the man he expected to earn his trust in his time there, but not assume it. So then Glenn spent 6 weeks doing exactly that. He noticed the man was responsible for an area. It was a rather cluttered space. Nobody had ever let him clean it. He wanted to, but nobody had ever let him. So Glenn told him, go ahead and clean it. The man didn't believe Glenn, thought it was a trap to get him fired. Glenn told him again, the guy cleaned it. And then Glenn shared the man's accomplishment with the whole team. What happened with that person, because he was attended unto, was his chronic absences nearly disappeared. He became a peak performer. He became what I like to call a true believer in that work positive culture. All because someone finally attended to what he needed and gave him the autonomy to act on it. Glenn told me the key was remembering you don't have to like your people every day. I mean, Glenn did not like it, that the fact that the guy walked into his office and called BS on him, right? You don't have to like your people every day, but you do have to love them. Which means sometimes we tolerate some transformational behavior that may be out of bounds, right? Ashley Rudolph experienced transforming power of a leader who attends to each person as a manager. it was her manager in this case, and invited her to what looked like a routine meeting, closed the door, and then opened up a PowerPoint presentation created entirely just for Ashley. Let's listen to how Ashley describes this experience with her own manager.
There is power in telling someone what you see for them based on their capacity, based on, what they're able to do, without signing up for something that you may not be able to deliver on, without saying like, you will be a director in 6 months, and then that comes to bite you, right?
Yeah, right. So instead of being prescriptive, it was descriptive. Ashley, here's what I see for you. So it was more vision casting.
Exactly.
And I think of those conversations as becoming conversations.
Yes.
Here's what you can become in the company. So here are those next steps. You hear me drawing the difference there between prescriptive and descriptive. Think of prescriptive as a promise you may fail to keep. Descriptive is far more empowering. It's a gift you can give to anyone at any level at any time, regardless of your budget or head count or hiring freeze. Here's what I see for you. What's your response? So here's your attend, do one thing challenge. This week, just choose one person again. It can be a different person than your one you chose earlier to have a conversation with, and have this kind of vision conversation, this kind of descriptive conversation. Here's what I see for you. Tell them one thing. Okay, one person, one thing. We're going to do one thing. Tell them one thing that you see in them that they may not see in themselves fully yet. And then ask them where they want to go with that one thing. So one person, one conversation, one becoming conversation. Here's what I see in you that you may not see in yourself. Where do you want to go with it? Go over to the comments and drop the first name of the team member you're going to have this becoming conversation with this week, right? Just the first name, right? Just put Sue, Sam, Bob, Jeremiah. See, my mind just went back to songs when I was a kid. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. It's Three Dog Night. Sorry, that's just part of the soundtrack playing in my head. Squirrel, right? All right. D is for define the culture on purpose as you're creating your work positive dream team. R is right people, right seats. What is E? Elevate courage. What is A? Attend to each person. And as you're attending to them, oh, wow, you're about to set your team on fire for performance when you enact this M in Dream, which is magnify their strengths. I had the privilege of interviewing Lisa Cummings on the Work Positive podcast. She was a brand new manager back in 1999. She ran a half-day workshop with her team using Gallup's Strengths Finder assessment. You're probably familiar with that. Lisa had inherited this team. You know what that means. These were not her people. So she did what most of us as new managers do, and she just hoped everyone would buy into the way that she does things. Guilty as charged? Right. Yep. Been there, done that myself early in my career. That assessment, the Strengths Finder assessment, transformed her way of thinking instantly, because the people she was most uncertain about, were they going to adopt her way of doing things, revealed talents that she had completely overlooked. The quiet person was a very precision thinker. The one who seemed scattered and like out of bounds all the time was actually a connector who moved ideas across the organization faster than anyone else. So Lisa had managed for similarity, but the assessment revealed the power of a complementarity as the key in that team, right? In other words, magnifying those strengths required Lisa to pay attention. Here's the way she described it on the Work Positive podcast episode.
Notice what works to get more of what works. If you start noticing and you actually say something to the person you've spotted strengths in, it doesn't require an assessment. It doesn't require a fancy training. It just requires you to have an orientation toward what is that person doing well and how many things can I catch somebody doing right today, and say it out loud, even if it's small, and watch what that does. It's easy for you to, when I say repeatable, I mean, it's easy for me to repeat because I'm just like, catch someone doing something right, catch someone doing something right. But also it's easy for them to repeat because they already know how to do it. It doesn't require training. It doesn't require you to coach them. They just need to know you thought that was good and they should do more of it. And it is incredible, the ripple effect.
I love it. So many of us people leaders do the opposite. I refer to it as the dental approach. You know, when you go to the dentist, he's looking for what? Or she's looking for what? A cavity. There's something wrong with your teeth. That's the way we approach our teams. What are we doing? We're constantly scanning for what's wrong, and we give attention to what's wrong. And that, my friends, we call management. Lisa tells us to flip that paradigm. Catch someone doing something right, she says, say it out loud, even if it's small, and watch what that does. Man, it really lights up the people on your team because you're magnifying their strength. Someone caught me doing something right. So walk through your office if you're in a physical office, or gaze across the Teams or Zoom meeting one day and have one question in your mind. What is this person doing that no one else on my team does quite like this? What is this person doing that no one else on my team does quite like this? Find the answer, name it out loud. You'll be magnifying strengths as you do. I absolutely love it. Gallup data on strengths-based organizations that do this shows a 21% increase in productivity. Would you like to have a 21% increase in your productivity? 14% reduction in turnover. Wow. You just saved your company a lot of money and added to your own budget right there, right? And as well as the emotional energy that it takes to go out and find someone. Lisa added one dimension that most strengths conversations skip. Every person, and this was very insightful when she told me this, every person on your team carries an unspoken set of expectations about how work should go. They just assume certain things will happen rather than having a conversation about it or writing down. So Lisa told me, and this was so insightful when you go to Magnify Strengths, we have these expectations that are never spoken or agreed upon. So we just get annoyed with each other about little things. And when we start to get annoyed, then we take the dental approach. We go find the cavities. We go find something wrong in these other people, and we magnify that. Instead, surface those unspoken rules, talk about them safely, productively, and lead through responsibility to see that that happens. And that means you as a people leader go first. Magnifying strengths is how you as a people leader show someone that the work they do matters. And that means they matter too, because they're the only ones who can do it the way that they do it. So here's your Magnify Strengths do one thing challenge for today. Okay. This week, over the next week, and this time instead of one person, I'm going to ask you to do 3 people. Catch 3 people doing something well. That means a mental flip because you're looking for somebody screwing something up. Find someone doing something well. Share it specifically in that moment. Susie Q, you did a great job with ABC. I appreciate you doing it for XYZ reasons. Say it out loud. In fact, go into your next team meeting and say, this week, Susie Q did this. Samantha did this. Barbara did that. And name it out loud. Did I prompt you to think about a strength that you see in a teammate right now as I talked about that? Did you think of someone? You're going to be looking for 3. Put in the comments just that strength that you see in a teammate right now. One of the people that you lead. What's that strength? They show up on time. They always get their work in on time. They're a great connector. They're the life of the party and really bring a lot of energy to a meeting. What is their strength? Just drop that in the comments right there. Okay. All right. So we've got the DREAM. Well, before we land, here's a question that decides whether your dream team lasts, because sustaining the dream team is so important. And here I want to just talk about generational reality because it seems like every week I'm hearing from somebody that says, hey, I got 4 generations on my team. I got 5 generations on my team. And a lot of them are guys my age, and they say, I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what to do with them. Sean Limsom helped me think of this a lot, because I love metaphors. He told a story about a Thanksgiving meal with 4 generations gathered around the table. And each of the older generations was sharing a story about when a company let them down. I mean, there were stories about a layoff after 20 years of loyalty, a bonus that vanished when the numbers went south, a pension fund that was raided when the company was under financial stress, a job that evaporated a week before retirement vested. So is it any wonder that the Gen Z team members sitting at this Thanksgiving table were skeptical? What if we think about the Gen Z team members particularly as rational rather than disloyal? Because disloyal is what I hear them tagged with almost weekly. They learned before day one that loyalty sent in one direction only does not guarantee loyalty returned. And so they're protecting themselves with knowledge that their elders paid dearly to earn and learn. So if you want to sustain your work positive culture and create dream teams, if you want loyalty flowing through your culture, you, the people leader, have to model it first. Here's the way Sean Limsom described it.
You should see the look on my face when I have leaders say to me, you know, nobody's loyal to companies anymore. Nobody wants to be loyal. And I just want to go, what level of cognitive dissonance do you have to have that you can toss people to the curb, make a profit in a quarter, and then expect them to hang on with you? You know, like loyalty bounces back at you when you send it down your organization, right? It doesn't. It's not something you can buy. It's not something you can demand. So if you're a leader out there and you're thinking, how could I get people to do just about anything I want them to do? Well, show them some loyalty and commitment to them, and they will show it back.
Oh, boy, that's so important. So very important. So let's talk about your next best step, shall we? Because now you have the framework for creating the work positive teams that you've always dreamed about. Because now you know the D in dream is for define your culture on purpose. R is for right people, right seats. E is for elevate courage. A is for attend to each person. And the M in dream is for magnify their strengths. So what's your next best step? Dream is the framework. But look, I've created some 19 frameworks. You've got some more to learn about as a year in the second half of this year. Some 19 frameworks. And here's one thing I've learned. I can come up with the best frameworks in the world. So can you. But a framework without action, it is just an acronym. And it's going to sit right there as only an acronym until you act on it. So let me ask you a couple of questions. What about the dream framework is your team doing well right now? Just put one of those letters in the comments. D for define the culture on purpose, R for right people, right seats, E for elevate courage, A for attend each person, or M magnify their strengths. What are you doing well? Okay, we're magnifying your strengths here first. What are you doing well? Drop that in the comments. Now, there's an opposite but equal reaction too. Which dream part of the framework can your team learn from and do better, and you as a people leader begin to work on? Okay. Which dream part of the framework can your team learn from and do a little bit better? And drop that letter in the comments also. Cultivating your dream team. If I've learned anything, it's this. Cultivating your dream team happens in the steady accumulation of moments where people feel clearly led and rightly placed and bravely heard and personally seen and genuinely celebrated. So definition emerges one mirror question at a time for you. Attraction grows one compelling invitation at a time. Courage rises up one named uncertainty at a time by you as a people leader. attention deepenings as you have one becoming conversation at a time. And magnification spreads one strength named at a time. Man, let me assure you one thing. The world needs what your team can create. And in order for your team to create well, you clearly lead, you rightly place, you courageously voice, you personally attend to, and you genuinely magnify them, okay? Your leadership makes that possible. And therefore, the Work Positive Dream Team that you've always dreamed of comes true. All right, and we're about out of time. If you want to ask a question, well, actually, we are out of time, aren't we? If you want to ask me a question, DM me on LinkedIn. Just send me a message. I promise I'll read every one of them and I respond to each of them personally. I apologize that I didn't reserve enough time today to let you ask your questions in the comments section publicly. Before we say goodbye, though, I want to give you a couple of gifts. The book, Dream Teams at Work, Cultivate the Work Positive Dream Teams You Dream About. It's free today. If you're doing this live, it is free today. Go to Amazon right now. Get your copy absolutely free, right? If you are watching this and it's not live, then, and you'll see in the comments there the link to Amazon. Please just go in there. You'll see it on Facebook and on LinkedIn. If you're on YouTube, just come over to our Facebook page at Work Positive, or find the Work Positive company page on LinkedIn. It'll be right there, or on my personal profile page, Dr. Joey Fawcett. If you're watching the recording of this, go on LinkedIn and message me and just send me a message and say, hey, really enjoyed the Dream Teams at Work seminar that you did, that webinar. Please, please, please send me a copy of it, and I'll send you a digital copy of it absolutely free. Second thing is, I want you to do your Work Positive Culture assessment today so that you can discover where you are in the Work Positive Culture journey and creating the dream teams at work. Are you at a grow culture phase, a grow people phase, or are you in the grow profits phase? Okay. Simply go to workpositive.today. That's about as easy as I can make it. Just go to workpositive.today and you'll see the link. Hey, look, it'll only take about 3 or 4 minutes of your time. I'll immediately send you back where you are in your Work Positive Culture journey. And I promise to send you some free strategies, some tips and tactics so that you can begin today to create the kind of work positive teams that you've always dreamed about. Thank you so much for the gift of you, for being a part of what it is that we're doing here in the Work Positive community. Go get your free book. If you're watching the recording, DM me on LinkedIn. Go over to workpositive.today. Do your free culture assessment there. I know that's a lot of free, but it's how committed I am to helping create work positive culture so that more of us have positive work experiences where we grow culture, grow people, and grow profits, because all these people go home and they're better partners, significant others, parents, and community members. And that makes the world so much better that we all live in. Thank you so much for the gift of your time, energy, and attention today. I appreciate you. I love you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day as much as I will.